Good evening to one and all. We welcome our chief guest, Honorable Mrs. Justice B.V. Nagaratna, and the Chief Justice of the Madras High Court, and Justice Anita Suman, and Honorable Justice P.T. Asha on the dais. A whole generation worked to empower women, but forgot to teach the world how to live with empowered women. This is true both within the family and within society as a whole, as family is but a slice of society. Women today across the spectrum have evolved as more resilient beings and have learnt not only to walk their path independently, but also to chart their own journey. The downside, though, is that even in this time and age, women encounter violence and discrimination at multiple intersectional axes, harassment and disrespect in different degrees. Women in the judiciary, whether they are technical, subordinate, executive staff, or judges at the district judiciary level or at the High Court, are no exception to this gender specific treatment. Today's is an initiative to institutionalize a drive against any such form of violence against and disrespect to the pride, esteem, and honor of women. And it is our privilege today to have with us esteemed Honorable Mrs. Justice B.V. Nagaratna, Judge, Supreme Court of India, in the presence of the Honorable Chief Justice of the Madras High Court, Justice K.R. Sriram, for this noble venture. With this brief introduction, let us invoke the blessings of the Tamil Thai before we start this initiative. Let us all rise for the Tamil Thai Vaalt.
நீராறும் கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்தை கெழிலொழுகும் சீராறும் வதனமென திகழ்பரத கண்டமிதில் தெக்கணமும் மதிசிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு பிறை நுதலும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறன் வியந்து செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே.
In line with our long-standing tradition, I request the dignitaries on the dais to light the ceremonial kuttuvilakku. Before we proceed further, I would like to introduce our esteemed dignitaries on the dais to the audience. Our chief guest for the day is Honorable Mrs. Justice B.V. Nagaratna, Judge Supreme Court of India, who has gained immense popularity not only in the legal fraternity but has also come to be known as a trailblazer judge among the general public. She is also the chairperson of the Gender Sensitization and Internal Complaints Committee of the Supreme Court, and who else but her would be the right person to inaugurate a program of this nature? Her strong demeanor is only an armor for her intensely sensitive mind that is driven by her resolve to uphold greatest public interest while remaining steadfastly true to the ideals of the Constitution so deeply engraved in our hearts. It is our honor to welcome her and have her amongst us today. Honorable Justice K.R. Sriram, the Chief Justice of this High Court. Honorable Justice K.R. Sriram, the Chief Justice of this High Court, is now one among us. In a short period of time, he has endeared himself to one and all. He is a father figure to the Madras High Court and its bar. His deep knowledge of the law, multilingual skills, patience, empathy, and readiness to help in any situation are his quintessential strengths. We welcome you, my Lord. Honorable Justice Anita Sumant, Judge, Madras High Court, is known for her dignified ways and deep understanding of and mastery on the subject. With her polite manners and firm attitude, she has carved a niche for herself. Coming to Honorable Justice P.T. Asha, her vivacious demeanor, infectious laughter, and an enduring spirit of optimism are her defining characteristics. Not to be forgotten, though, behind this pleasant visage is a steely woman with a mind endowed with brimming knowledge, tempered with practical nuances. With this brief introduction of our guests, I now request Justice Anita Sumant to deliver the welcome address and give us a brief overview of the program.
Respected Justice B.V. Nagaratna from the Supreme Court, Chief Justice K.R. Sriram, judges of this court, members of the District Judiciary, senior advocates and members of the bar, registrars and staff of this court, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to all of you and a very warm welcome. The Madras High Court today unveils a year-long awareness program for gender sensitization, elimination of violence against women, and prevention of harassment in the workplace. Though programs relating to women empowerment are not a novelty, and our court has engaged in many such ventures in this direction, what makes this program unique is its purport, scope, and design. We find a stark dichotomy today between the women in the urban populace of the state when compared with those in the rural areas. While this is a national phenomenon, in Tamil Nadu, it is even more prominent. Let me give you some statistics to bring home this point. The female labor force participation rate in rural Tamil Nadu is 35.1, which is 15.4% higher than the national average. In urban areas, it is 23.6%, which is 7.5% higher than the national average. This tells us of the significant participation and contribution of women, both in rural and urban areas, to the economy of the state. Unfortunately, however, and more often than not, women, both in urban and rural areas, lack the power commensurate to their high levels of engagement to command parity with their male counterparts. And as the figure indicates, the disparity is far more as we move away from the urban centers. A big part of that are the dimensions of harassment, violence, and discrimination. It is these combined factors that form the raison d'etre for this program today. We have 38 districts in Tamil Nadu and 2 in Puducherry, and the vision is to take our programs for gender sensitivity and increase in women's emancipation to the women there. For this, we have identified women in 4 target areas: members of the district judiciary, staff in the district judiciary, members of the bar in the districts and taluks, students with emphasis on those from the law colleges in the districts. Madam, we have before us over 1,000 judicial officers attending the event, over 250 officers from Chennai who attend physically, and over 800 attending online, as today is a working day for the districts. They will be our catalysts, the engineers who facilitate this project and carry the message home. They are the ones who will teach the focus group in their districts the methods and the means to enhance gender parity and provide measures for preventing harassment of women in the workplace. We could have thought of none other or better than Justice Nagaratna to launch this initiative. She is presently heading the Gender Sensitization Committee of the Supreme Court and is well known for her articulate, firm, and forward-thinking views on the issue of gender parity and providing a secure environment for women to work. As our MC said, a truly trailblazing judge. A bench headed by her has taken these issues up in Aureliano Fernandez as a continuing mandamus, issuing directions periodically. Some of the important directions issued just a few days ago are that internal complaints committees must be formed in all government departments and PSUs. A district officer must be appointed in all districts to oversee the implementation of the POSH Act, and measures must be put in place for effective implementation of what is called the She-Box portal. Now, the She-Box is an acronym for Sexual Harassment Electronic Box, and it is an initiative of the government to provide single window access to every woman, irrespective of whether she falls in the organized, unorganized, private or public sector, to lodge a complaint of sexual harassment in the workplace. With the direction now issued by the Supreme Court, the She-Box becomes a very valuable tool available to every single woman in the country to protect against workplace harassment. Madam, on behalf of the Chief Justice, the judges, and all of us here at the Madras High Court, it gives me the greatest pleasure to welcome you to this event. They say that each time a woman stands up for herself, she stands up for all women. This venture is a step to enable just that. And we believe that nothing could inspire our actions in this direction more than your gracious presence and participation today. A very warm welcome to every member of the audience here. Thank you for taking the time to come and add value to our program. You have no idea how much it means to all of us. Thank you, and once again, welcome.
We will now proceed to honor the dignitaries. The Honorable Chief Justice, Madras High Court, will now honor Mrs. Justice B.V. Nagaratna, our chief guest and keynote speaker for the day, with a book and memento. Thank you, my lord. Honorable Justice S.S. Sundar, Judge, Madras High Court, will now honor the Honorable Chief Justice with a book. We thank your lordships. The Bar Associations will now honor the Chief Guest and the Honorable Chief Justice. Mr. M. Bhaskar, President of the Madras Bar Association, will honor Mrs. Justice Nagaratna. Mr. S. Thiruvengadam, Secretary, Madras Bar Association, will honor the Honorable Chief Justice. Mr. G. Mohana Krishnan, President, Madras High Court Advocates Association, will honor our chief guest. Mr. R. Krishna Kumar, Secretary, Madras High Court Advocates Association, will honor the Honorable Chief Justice. Mrs. N.S. Revati, President, Women Lawyers Association, will honor our chief guest, and Mrs. A. Parveen, Secretary, Women Lawyers Association, will honor the Honorable Chief Justice. Mr. K. Jayaraman, President, Law Association, and Mr. Vel Murugan, Secretary, Law Association, will honor the dignitaries. The Chairman, Bar Council of Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, Mr. P.S. Amalraj, will now honor Honorable Mrs. Justice Nagaratna and the Honorable Chief Justice. Thank you. I now request the Honorable Chief Justice, Justice K.R. Sriram, to deliver the presidential address.
Honorable Mrs. Justice V.V. Nagaratna, Judge, Supreme Court of India, sister and brother judges of the Madras High Court, judges of the District Judiciary, members of the Registry, senior advocates, members of the legal fraternity, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to all of you. Yatra naryastu pujyante ramante tatra devataha yatraitastu na pujyante sarvastra phala kriya. The divine are extremely happy where women are respected. Where they are not, all actions are fruitless. It gives me immense pleasure in addressing you all this evening as we launch year-long awareness programs at the High Court and at the district level for gender sensitization and elimination of violence against women. At the outset, I would like to acknowledge and express my gratitude to Honorable Mrs. Justice B.V. Nagaratna for gracing this occasion. Thank you very much for taking time off. And I should tell you, just one phone call immediately Justice Nagaratna agreed to be part of this function. As Justice Anita also has, pardon me, Anita also has introduced Justice Nagaratna. She is also the chairperson of the Supreme Court Gender Sensitization and Internal Complaints Committee. Her ladyship's illustrious career and unwavering commitment to justice serve as an inspiration for all of us. Her ladyship's insights and dedication to women's rights resonate profoundly with the ethos of our initiative. Her ladyship's voice has always championed progress and equality, illustrating that the law should be a beacon of hope for those in need. In 2023, Fortune India, a magazine, highlighted the views of her ladyship that what women are asking is not some kind of pedestal in society. What women are asking is equal treatment and not to be demeaned, whether it is in the workplace, at home, or in public streets. The august presence of her ladyship, having such high ideals amidst us, makes this momentous occasion a cherishable one, and I am sure that her ladyship's views will guide us further to achieve the goals of this program. After reading about a similar program initiated by the Honorable Gujarat High Court, I discussed it with my fellow judges, Justice Anita, Sumant, Justice Asha, and the members of the Committee for Gender Sensitization about initiating a similar program. They promptly agreed with the initiative and to ensure that all necessary steps are taken to conduct the program in a befitting manner. The Legal Aid Services Authority, I'm sure, will also be supporting the initiative. The object of this gender sensitization program is to change the thinking and views that some hold about women. It will help us apprise our personal attitudes and beliefs. The initiative is not just another event on our agenda. It reflects our deep commitment to fostering a society that values the right and safety besides dignity of every woman in our society. Violence against women transcends boundaries. It is a pervasive violation of human rights affecting every segment of society, irrespective of class, caste, region, or religion. Its consequences are not only detrimental to victims, but also to their families, community, and ultimately to the fabric of our society. This program gives us an opportunity to reflect on the gravity and the urgency of the issue before us. Our aim is to imbue the younger generation with values of respect, understanding, and equality. By conducting programs on gender sensitization, we can create a community that respects and prioritizes women's rights. This program gives us an opportunity to reflect on the gravity and the urgency of the issue before us. Having said this, now I'm going to say something more like a story, certain customs, and about certain persons, ladies, which would throw back how women were well respected, how women were equal, and how women contributed. From what I'm going to say further now, I'm sure many of the youngsters here and many of us otherwise will have to think why this has happened, how we can go back to the olden times where women was treated with respect. India has a rich tapestry of stories, texts, and traditions that touch upon gender roles and relationships. There are instances that highlight the dignity and strength of women. The significance of goddess Shakti in various texts symbolizes feminine power. The concept of Shakti emphasizes that women possess strength, dynamism, and a central role in our society. Texts like the Devi Mahatmya celebrate the divine feminine and highlight stories of goddess who embody courage and resilience. Gender sensitization is not a recent phenomenon. It has been ingrained in our traditions for centuries. There is a part of India where during the marriage, Saptapati is a significant ritual. It consists of 7 steps that the bride and groom take together, symbolizing their commitment to each other and their shared responsibilities in life. This is talking of equality and how both were equal. These steps are a central part of the wedding ceremony and are often taken around a sacred fire, which represents the divine witness to the vows. Each step denotes dharma, wherein the couple vows to live together with a sense of duty and uphold righteousness in their relationship and in society. In essence, Saptapati is a sacred vow that binds the couple not only in physical union, but also in their spiritual, emotional, and social commitments to each other. It is a ritual that acknowledges the holistic nature of marriage, including the responsibilities, challenges, and joys that come with it. Our Indian culture honors females in several ways. Kanya Puja, one of them, wherein during Navaratri, girls typically of 5 to 10 are honored as manifestations of the divine feminine. During this ceremony, the girls are worshipped, symbolizing respect and reverence for women. The ritual highlights the importance of femininity and acknowledges the power of goddesses in Indian culture, promoting the idea of revering, honoring females in society. The story of Adi Shankara's debate with Mandana Mishra is a notable episode in Indian philosophy. During the debate with Mandana Mishra, Mandana invited his wife Vachaspati to serve as the judge of their philosophical debate, acknowledging her wisdom. This encounter not only showcased the intellectual prowess of both scholars, but also highlighted the important role of women in philosophical discourses in ancient India. Why the change now? Ancient India was home to a number of remarkable women who made significant contributions across various fields, including philosophy, literature, governance, and the sciences. Some of the notable, many would have heard of Rani Lakshmi Bai, the Rani of Jhansi. She was an icon in the Indian Rebellion of 1857 against British rule. Lakshmi Bai remains a symbol of courage and independence, inspiring generations in India. Gargi Vachaknavi was a renowned philosopher and one of the principal characters in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. She is celebrated for her deep knowledge of philosophy and metaphysics. Maitreyi is another character, an illustrious thinker from the Upanishad period. The story, Bhaskara's daughter Leelavati was another person. These texts not only serve as an educational resource, but also symbolizes the bond between a man and a woman. The renowned poet Kalidasa created strong female characters such as Shakuntala in his works. Though slightly later than ancient times, Anandi Gopal Joshi was the first Indian woman to earn a degree in Western medicine in 1886. She broke social barriers and is a symbol of women's education and empowerment in India's modern history. In certain society, when the husband gives dakshina to the priest, the wife is instructed to shed one drop of water on the dakshina, which means take her consent before you give it, because as your partner, as your wife, she has an equal share in your wealth. So you can't just as a man give away the thing that you have. You need to take your wife's permission before you part with whatever you have. So many women in those days contributed to not only contributed to their fields but also set remarkable examples of resilience, intelligence, and strength, influencing the societies around them and paving the way for future generations of women in India. Empowered women not only contribute to their families, but also to the growth and development of our society as a whole. Economic independence, access to education, and legal literacy are essential tools that can aid in breaking the cycles of violence and victimization. When women rise, communities flourish. When women's voices are elevated, societies become stronger. Gender sensitization begins at home. It is not something which could be implanted. It has to be cultivated from childhood. It is a fundamental value that children absorb from their immediate environment rather than through formal education alone. Children observe how parents interact with each other and with other family members. A father who treats his wife with respect and equality teaches his children the value of partnership and mutual respect, while negative behaviors can perpetuate cycles of inequality. Open and respectful communication within the family fosters an environment where both girls and boys feel valued. Engaging children in discussions about gender equality and the importance of respect will nurture them to become responsible citizens in future. How responsibilities are divided in the household often reflects and reinforces gender norms. In families where tasks are shared equally, children learn that both men and women can contribute equally to home life, promoting a more balanced view of gender roles. Supporting both sons and daughters in sports, academics, and hobbies can build their confidence. When children witness their parents addressing instances of gender bias or discrimination, they learn the importance of standing up against inequality. This proactive approach contributes to a more gender-sensitive outlook. The values imparted within the family can significantly shape a child's understanding and approach to gender equality, influencing their interactions and behavior in wider society. It is crucial for families to actively foster an environment of equality, respect, and open dialogue to prepare children to be responsible, empathetic, and gender-sensitive individuals. Though there may be certain incidents of violence against women, let us not forget that in our country, where culture has celebrated women from time immemorial and has treated them with due respect, I am confident that our younger generation will continue to take care of our rich tradition and treat women with dignity and protect their rights. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
I thank the Honorable Chief Justice for an insightful speech. We have now come to the keynote address by our chief guest, Mrs. Justice Nagaratna, who is a harbinger of hope for every Indian woman to see one of her kind adorn the highest seat of justice. She is feisty and fearless in her pursuit of justice. Her judgments relating to the freedom of speech, protection of women against heinous offences, and interpretation of the constitutional provisions, while neatly presented within the contours of legal principles, always bear the stamp of her parental concern for the weaker and voiceless sections of society, while remaining anchored to the constitutional as well as traditional values of Indian society, which she holds so close to her heart. Her judgments are a constant reminder that at the end of the day, justice cannot lose her way in the labyrinth of the laws, and it is the last litigant who must feel that the Constitution and the laws are for her welfare, protection, and upliftment. It is my pleasant duty to invite her to deliver the keynote address on this occasion.
Vanakkam and namaskar to everybody. Honorable the Chief Justice of the Madras High Court, Sri Justice K.R. Sriram, Honorable brother and judges, sister judges of the Madras High Court, learned members of the District Judiciary, office bearers of the Bar Associations, learned senior advocates and members of the Bar, learned Registrar General and Registrars of the High Court, staff of the High Court and the District Judiciary, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to everybody, those who are physically present in this hall and those who are digitally present. It is indeed an honor for me to be present here at this August gathering. I came here a few days ago at the behest of our good friend, Mr. Ramesh Rajan, who invited me to be at the centenary of his dear father, Justice Natarajan. Soon thereafter, your Chief Justice called me and he said that I must be present in this program. And I thought it was my pleasant duty to be here today, and therefore I thank you all again, and particularly the Chief Justice and the chairperson and members of the Gender Sensitization Committee of the Madras High Court and all companion judges of the Madras High Court for inviting me today. I must at the outset congratulate the Madras High Court for this important initiative and for inviting me to be at this initiative, which is a training program and an awareness program for the legal fraternity and for the judiciary in the state of Tamil Nadu. I must recollect that when I was the president of the Karnataka Judicial Academy, I had thought of a similar program, but that was only for the district judges. It was called a gender justice program for 3 days. We started it for the district judges, principal district judges, then thereafterwards the district judges, then the senior judges, civil judges, and then the civil judges. It was a 3-day program only to bring an awareness with regard to all the laws concerning gender justice. But this program goes beyond that program, I think. It is more a sensitization and an awareness, not just how to decide cases as a judge with regard to the gender justice as such, but generally to inculcate a sense of awareness of how to treat the other gender in our day-to-day lives. I think the Gujarat High Court has also initiated such a program, and therefore I must say that this program, which is being initiated by the Madras High Court, must be replicated throughout the length and breadth of the country by all the other high courts, I must advise at this stage. Let me begin my speech by invoking a couplet from a poem of the legendary poet Subramanya Bharati. Forgive me for my wrong pronunciation. It says, Anam pennam nigarena kolvatal, arivil onge iv vayam talaikumam. It means, if men and women are considered equal, the earth will flourish with highest wisdom. This is something of a Tamil version of what Chief Justice Sri Ram said of the Sanskrit version. The poem, though written many, many decades ago, is relevant even to the present day. It says that men and women should be considered equal, but gender inequality persists. Let me clarify at this stage, being a woman and speaking on behalf of women, we are not seeking an exalted position in society. All that we are seeking is and equality to be recognized as part of the society. Before elaborating on the subject, it is essential to underline the aspirations of our founding mothers. We always say founding fathers of our constitution, but let me refer to those 15 women who are the founding mothers. And one of them, that is Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, in 1932 at Jalandhar said, and I quote, "The women of India are no longer willing to submit to standards, whether local, political, or ethical, which have been set for them by the male conscience of the community. We are passionately aware that such standards have often been allowed to imply the complete subordination or even degradation of whole classes of women. We are aware of the necessity of finding and being judged by our own standards of free human beings, voluntarily accepted. We are determined to face the facts of life, to fight the battles of our sex, and to take the risks," unquote. This solitary statement made in the year 1932 is a roaring reflection of the socio-political churn that crystallized into the constitutional values of gender equality and justice. In society, everybody wishes to live in a gender equal society. There is often a demand for strict laws on violence against women, blame on the executive for lack of strict enforcement of laws, sometimes blame on the judiciary also on certain judgments which are passed, blame on the society for the patriarchal mindset, and blame generally on others for the discrimination that we may face in our lives. It is therefore necessary that we introspect ourselves, our actions, and the institution we belong to, and examine the barriers directly or indirectly maintained in order to promote gender equality and to remove such barriers. After all, the Indian legal system still has the tag of being male dominated, and it is high time that we try to shed that tag. In this context, this initiative by the Madras High Court to launch a year-long awareness program at the High Court and at the district level for gender sensitization and elimination of violence against women is important and commendable. I must congratulate the Honorable Chief Justice and his companion judges for taking up this initiative. In my speech, first I will share a few observations on the UN initiative to combat violence against women. Then I will briefly speak about the plight of women at the workplace. I will touch upon briefly the constitutional provisions relating to women's empowerment and the law governing the prevention of sexual harassment at workplace. On 7th February 2000, the United Nations General Assembly adopted Resolution 54 of 134 to officially designate 25th November as the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. The resolution is important for several reasons. It described the term violence against women broadly as any act of gender-based violence that results in or is likely to result in physical, sexual, or psychological harm or suffering to women, including threats of such acts, coercion, or arbitrary deprivation of liberty, whether occurring in public or in private life. The theme for this year is titled, "Every 10 minutes a woman is killed, no excuse. Unite to end violence against women." On 25th November 2024, the United Nations Women and United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime released a report titled Femicides in 2023, Global Estimates of Intimate Partner or Family Member Femicides. It revealed that globally, 85,000 women and girls were killed intentionally in 2023. 60% of these homicides, that is around 51,100, were committed by an intimate partner or a family member. The data shows that 140 women and girls die every day at the hands of their partner, or a close relative, which means one woman or girl is killed in every 10 minutes in the world. Why should this happen? If we look at the data on crimes against women in India, the NCRB data reflects the unfortunate reality that violence against women is pervasive and has only been increasing every year. Sadly, this pervasive injustice is also deep-rooted in our social economic fabric, that consistent awareness campaigns, breaking barriers, and shattering glass ceilings are required for the society to even be aware that it is perpetuating gender injustice. The latest National Family Health Survey reports that the sex ratio at birth is still worryingly low at 929 females per 1,000 males, despite being an improvement from the previous survey. Such worrying statistics has prompted governments to launch schemes such as Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao at the central level and various schemes in the states to educate citizens against gender bias and improve the efficacy of welfare services for girls. In my view, one of the ways in which there can be greater equality between men and women is for women to have greater participation in the workforce. As noted in the Beijing Declaration adopted at the 4th World Conference on Women, women's participation in the economic sphere, though through gainful employment, has led to more women being financially independent and is a critical factor in eradicating poverty. Economically empowering women is essential both to realize women's rights and to achieve broader development goals such as economic growth, poverty reduction, health, education, and welfare. The data on women participation in labor markets across the world shows disparities across different regions and countries. In India, according to the latest annual periodical labor force survey report, though women's participation in labor force and workforce has increased from 23.3% in 2017-18 to 37% in 2022-23, the conditions of work has not improved. The gap in the male and female labor force participation rate is also significantly wide. This can be attributed to several factors, including social, educational, and gender discrimination in wages and in opportunities at the workplace. The problems faced by women in the society, and especially in the workplaces, require to be better amplified in the society. Due to power imbalances, a lot of women do not get the attention that she deserves. Many recently married women are not hired simply for the reason that the company or the entity will have to grant maternity leave and provide maternity pay during maternity leave. Women, particularly from marginalized backgrounds and those with disabilities, are doubly disadvantaged and are particularly more vulnerable. I came across a writing where I don't know whether it is a public sector unit or a private sector unit. When it came to recruitment of women, in the form of the personal details which they had to fill, there was a column which said, on what date did you have your menstrual cycle? Or rather the menstruation. The reason being, they wanted to know whether the lady is about to be pregnant or already has got a pregnancy. Otherwise, they will have to pay her during the period of maternity leave. And therefore, that was one information which is in total violation of the right to privacy which was sought by the recruiting agency. There is another instance where I have come across where women are appointed or employed on temporary basis, contract basis, or whatever you may call. Once the lady asks for maternity leave and thereafter she takes the leave, there is automatically a cessation of her employment. They say you were on temporary employment, you took maternity leave, now we had to fill in somebody for that period, now your job is lost. Please go in search of a job somewhere else. Can women lose on their opportunity to work because they are women is the question. I will also remember at this stage what happened in Karnataka High Court, where an instance I must share with this audience, where one of the civil judges who was recruited had to come and take oath on a particular day. She went and met, and she had a letter from the High Court saying, please come on a particular day and take the oath as a civil judge, junior division. The lady went and met the registrar of the High Court, and she said, sir, I am due any day. I don't know whether I can come to the court on the particular day to take the oath. She informed the registrar general. And then obviously the day prior to the oath she delivered, and she could not make it on the day she had to take oath. Then a question arose whether she would lose her seniority because of that. Of course, I must be frank and say that most of my male colleagues in the High Court said, look, if she has not come on the day and taken the oath, she will be last in the list. She will lose her seniority. But I raised my voice and said that merely because she is a woman, she has the right to deliver the child. And for that reason, she cannot lose out on her seniority. My Chief Justice was kind enough and was able to persuade the other male colleagues. And ultimately, she came on the 5th day from the nursing home, took the oath in the Honorable Chief Justice's chamber, and returned back to the nursing home. And she did not lose her seniority. See, these are the small things which we need to attend to. And this is what is meant by gender sensitization in the workplace. We have our constitutional provisions, we have our constitutional values, we have Article 14, we have Article 15.1, we have Article 15.3, we have Article 39B, we have Article 39D, Article 42, Article 51, directive principles, and the fundamental rights as well as fundamental duties. How are we applying that in our day-to-day work and in our day-to-day issues which come up before us is the most important aspect of gender sensitization. In the Supreme Court in C.B. Muttamma versus Union of India, I need not go into the details of it, where the IFS officer was prohibited to get married until she required a permission before her marriage, even before the matter could be considered by the Supreme Court, because they knew it was before a bench of Justice Krishna Iyer. They withdrew that rule, and then they permitted C.B. Muttamma, the first IFS officer, Indian Foreign Services officer, they withdrew the rule. But nevertheless, Justice Krishna Iyer said this, and I quote him, if the family and domestic commitments of a woman member of the service is likely to come in the way of efficient discharge of duties, a similar situation may well arise in the case of a male member. But such a rule is not there for a male member of the IFS service to take permission to get married. But such a rule was imposed only in the case of a woman IFS officer, which was fortunately withdrawn. In R. Vasanta versus Union of India, the Madras High Court in the year 2000 unequivocally held that women cannot be excluded from employment during night shifts when they are being employed in the same factory during the 2 day shifts, and denial of employment on the sole ground of sex is violative of Article 15, and it is discriminatory and therefore unconstitutional. The Madras High Court raised concerns about the dichotomy that the very same woman worker who performs the same work during the 2 day shifts is denied livelihood to work in the night. There is ample data which acknowledge that a woman has a dual duty or a double duty, one in the workplace and another at home. This is because only 27% of men in India participate in household chores, putting India in the list of bottom 5 countries on that parameter. But in spite of women stepping into the paid work sphere, they continue to be presumed to be managers of the household. The woman works similarly as her brother, husband, or father in the office and comes home and does another shift of work, typically invisible to all alone, and usually unassisted by the male members of the family. But corporates and even the legislature has now recognized over the years the dual burden on the woman and has sought to ameliorate this problem. There is also a discussion on whether women employees should be given menstrual leave on one day in a month. I need not highlight the constitutional provisions to this enlightened audience, but it is only, as I said, the application of the provisions, even after 75 years of the enforcement of the Constitution, which is a challenge. Lack of awareness of rights and impediments in enforcement of the rights under the law, and enjoying the fruits of a court order or decree on being successful in a court of law, that is its implementation, all lead to women being discriminated, not only in the private sphere, but also in the workspace. I need not go into the details of the Vaishaka or the Vishaka judgment, as you say. The Supreme Court had to deal with the conspicuous absence of a legal framework to counter sexual harassment in the workplace, in the wake of a social worker in Rajasthan being gang raped for attempting to prevent a child marriage. The Supreme Court relied upon Article 11 of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, popularly called CEDAW 1979, and also the General Recommendation number 12 of CEDAW, which urges state parties to recognize that workplace sexual harassment amounts to a human right violation. It is only, I think, 16 years after that judgment, because that judgment came in 1997, and in 2013, a comprehensive legislation called the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013 came about. This legislation is unique in as much as there is no major threshold for the act to be applicable. It encompasses all kinds of employers. It includes domestic spaces as workplace. It expressly includes the organized and unorganized sector. It protects any woman rather than any woman employee in a workplace, because there can be other women who visit a workplace, then there can be women who are employees in the workplace. So it is all encompassing. Section 2N provides a broad definition of sexual harassment to include any one or more of the following unwelcome acts or behavior: physical contact and advances, a demand or request for sexual favors, making sexually colored remarks, showing pornography, any other unwelcome physical, verbal, or non-verbal conduct of sexual nature. I need not go into the details of the various sections of the Act, particularly which deals with Internal Complaints Committee, Section 4, and local committees under Section 6, the appointment of the special officers, etc. In Sanjeev Mishra versus Bank of Baroda, the Rajasthan High Court said that in today's digital era, a female employee being sexually harassed by an employee of a branch office located in another state would also fall under the purview of the Act, and such branch offices should be treated as one workplace on a digital platform. This is in the context of harassment digitally. In another case, the Bombay High Court has held that the definition of workplace is inclusive and deliberately broad to cover any scenario where a woman may be subjected to sexual harassment. However, even after 11 years since the Act has been enforced, the implementation is poor and fraught with problems. In several instances, internal complaints committees are either non-existent or ineffective. This is pushing complainants to approach external agencies such as the media, police, and court for complaint redressals, or in worst cases, to commit suicide. In the landmark case of Aurelio Fernandez, which Justice Anita referred to, the Supreme Court passed sweeping directions in 2023. But we have kept that matter still pending. And recently, we had the opportunity of issuing directions to the Union of India and all state governments and union territories to undertake in a time-bound manner to set up internal complaints committees where they are not constituted or have to be reconstituted, and also the appointment of special officers. Notably, a direction has been issued to all the deputy commissioners who are appointed as the special officers to undertake a survey of all the institutions within a particular district and to issue a directive to constitute the committees. The report has to be submitted through the state chief secretaries on 31st of March 2025. Another important development in this regard is what is called the She Box that has been set up by the Ministry of Women and Child Development of the central government. It is called Sexual Harassment Electronic Box, which has been referred to by Justice Anita, to provide a single window access to every woman, irrespective of her status, whether working in organized or unorganized, private or public sector, to facilitate the registration of a complaint related to sexual harassment, and also to track the status of such complaints. In addition, I may mention to this enlightened audience that the National Legal Services Authority has also had what is known as the NALSA helpline 15100 to facilitate access to legal assistance, including filing of cases of complaints. There is also a system known as Legal Services Management System, where an aggrieved woman can approach for advice, and the paralegal workers, paralegal volunteers, PLVs they are called, would also assist an aggrieved woman. I hope that these portals would increasingly be used by women who are survivors of sexual harassment in the workplace. While the law no doubt is important to raise awareness and enforce the fundamental right of a safe workplace, being an important aspect of right to work, the practical difficulty lies in addressing the unjustified prejudice that is displaced against women, which can have several material consequences. This prejudice, also called epistemic injustice by a philosopher named Miranda Fricker, is the idea that one can be unfairly discriminated against in their capacity as a knower based on prejudices such as gender, social background, ethnicity, race, sexuality, accent, tone of voice, etc. For example, in a predominantly male-dominated workforce, when women are promoted to higher positions, there is a tendency among some to comment that such women got promoted simply because they are women, that it is a tokenism, it is a symbolism, and only as a token to see that Articles 14 and 15.1 and 15.3 are followed. In other words, their prejudice prevents them from looking into the merit of the women in reaching those positions. Many of them think that such women may not be knowledgeable or slow in their work. In such cases, women are then required to work doubly hard than men in similar positions to simply demonstrate that they are equally meritorious and talented and are capable of hard work both at office as well as at home. But then the prejudice which is already there would again deprive them of opportunities to show their talent many a time. While when men are promoted or elevated to higher positions, such a thinking does not arise, or almost in every case it is considered deserving. The men have no concerns such as justifying their appointment by their able performance. Equally concerning is the prejudice that women are incapable of decision making at higher echelons positions and can be taken advantage of. I would like to remember this new word which was coined on account of the decentralization of governance through the Panchayat Raj system. What came to be known as the Panchayat Pati. You see, there is a reservation for women to be the Adhyaksha or Upadhyaksha, the chairman or the vice chairman of a Panchayat. But it would be the husband of the woman who is the chairman or the Adhyaksha of the Panchayat or the local body who would be the real person, and therefore the Panchayat Pati. But I think it is now on the wane because the women have now started asserting on their own and are not permitting their patis to be the persons who are the de facto chairman or adhyaksha or upadhyaksha of the local bodies. I therefore exhort all women employees and representatives in all legislatures, executive, judicial organs and our constitution, in all private and corporate sector, as well as in the organized and unorganized sector, to unite as a common force and support each other and demonstrate that they are equally capable of discharging their duties as men and thereby make use of the opportunities bestowed on them for the betterment of workplace in the country. No woman in India can be exploited at home, on the street, or in the workplace, irrespective of where she lives or works. Let me share a few thoughts with regard to the representation of women in the judiciary. To holistically understand women's effective participation in the judiciary, it is important to look at three main phenomena. One, the entry of women into the legal profession. Very good, many women are entering the legal profession. But the challenge is with regard to the retention of women and the growth of their numbers in the profession. Why is it that women advocates, women lawyers, after a few years, ultimately stop coming to the profession or practicing? This is something where the senior advocates, the seniors of the women who are their juniors must think about as to why they ultimately leave the profession. And the third is the advancement of women in numbers to senior echelons of the profession. It is only when the women continue to practice in the legal profession that what is called their visibility in the profession is maintained. By visibility, I mean the number of appearances they put in the courts. And as a result, they can be identified and elevated for the judiciary if they are interested. Many have stressed that increased diversity within a judiciary and ensuring judges are representative of society, which enables the judiciary as a whole to better respond to diverse social and individual contexts and experiences. It is a recognition of this fact that a greater representation of women in the judiciary would greatly improve the overall quality of judicial decision making and the impacts generally it has on society. Some prejudices make some persons to treat women with a lax attitude. It is only due to such prejudice that many a time women are required to portray themselves as a hard taskmaster, even when they are very kind and otherwise very compassionate. Unfortunately, even this response by women perpetuates further prejudices against them in the workplace. Such prejudice can also lead to what is called sexism. There are two ways in which it occurs. First is hostile sexism, which involves antipathy and negative stereotypes about women, such as beliefs that women are incompetent, overly emotional, etc. It also involves beliefs that men should be more powerful than women and fears that women will try to take power from men. The second way is more subtle. It is called benevolent sexism, where people have overall positive views of women, but only as long as they occupy traditionally feminine roles. No man would like a challenge in the workplace from a woman. That is the long and short of it. The impact of such prejudice can lead to material consequences, especially if those equal to or senior in position have such mentality. Example, women may be given less serious tasks or very specific tasks, which may prevent their exposure to other important tasks. Sometimes difficult and tricky tasks are entrusted to women so that others can escape from criticism on discharging those tasks. One way to deal with such prejudice is to closely introspect power, privilege, and dominance in different settings. Example, where there are more women in certain service sectors, such as nursing, there is hardly any kind of problems which the women nurses would face. But on the other hand, in the judiciary, where it is predominantly male dominated, what are the difficulties of women judges? Similarly, when the bar is dominated by male lawyers, what are the difficulties of the female or the women lawyers? This is the same even in the context of designation of women senior advocates. Although a lot of women are beginning to enter this noble profession, it must be examined why they are unwilling or what hinders them from continuing in the profession. Without such introspection, these gender issues may be rendered invisible. During such introspection, it is also important that those in power obtain the views of those who are disadvantaged, rather than they assuming themselves about the issues plaguing them. In our context, because the relative position of women and men in general may be different, the nature of the issues and the analysis is not parallel, and gender specificity may be necessary to achieve gender equality. This can be done only if those who have the power of redressal listen to the victims of gender inequality. The legal framework, while essential, is not a panacea. It must be complemented by social and cultural change. We need to instill a sense of respect for women, both within families, at home, and at workplaces, and in all public places. Education, particularly of young minds, is paramount. By teaching children, particularly sons, about consent, empathy, and equality, we can lay the foundation for a future free from violence against women. Parents and grandparents must treat both girl and boy children on an equal footing. Ultimately, this change must begin at home. Even now, there is a tendency among certain families to term their female child as adutta veetu ponnu, belonging to someone else's house, or paraya ghar ki ladki. It is important that at home we treat boys and girls equally. The state is required to ensure that it creates conditions so that men and women can enjoy their rights equally. The fight against gender-based violence is a marathon and not a sprint. It requires sustained efforts, patience, and unwavering commitment. Let us pledge to work together to challenge the status quo and to create a world where every woman and girl can live with dignity, safety, and freedom. On this note, I wish to end my speech at last by highlighting the words of Audrey Hepburn, the actor, and I quote, "The beauty of a woman is not in the clothes she wears, the figure that she carries, or the way she combs her hair. The beauty of a woman is in her eyes, because that is the doorway to her heart, the place where love resides. True beauty in a woman is reflected in her soul. It's the caring that she lovingly gives, the passion that she shows, and beauty of a woman only grows with passing years," unquote. I once again congratulate the Madras High Court and particularly the Honorable Chief Justice for launching this year-long awareness programs at the High Court and the district level for gender sensitization and elimination of violence against women. I thank each one of you for coming here today and encouraging this initiative of the High Court. I express my gratitude to the Honorable Chief Justice, Honorable brother and sister judges, and to the registrars and staff of the High Court of Judicature, Madras, to each one of the judicial officers who is present here in person and online for inviting me to participate in this very purposeful initiative and allowing me to share a few of my thoughts. I am sure that what has been done in the state of Gujarat and now in the state of Tamil Nadu will be replicated in all other states in our country. I thank you all for your kind attention. Nandri and Vanakkam.
I sincerely thank our esteemed guest, Justice Nagaratna, for this thought-provoking speech. I am sure the audience would agree with me when I say that our founding mothers of the Constitution would be proud of their illustrious and distinguished daughter. I now request Justice P.T. Asha to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good evening to all. I deem it an honor to propose the vote of thanks for this memorable occasion. Sorry, there's one program that we have missed out.
May I request Honorable Mrs. Justice B.V. Nagaratna to present a memento to Advocate Kavita Rameshwar.
I also request Justice Nagaratna to present a memento to Mrs. Jayalakshmi for rendering the Tamil Thai Vart.
Good evening to all of you. I deem it a great honor to propose the vote of thanks for this memorable occasion. It is indeed our privilege that the one-year-long awareness program for gender sensitization and elimination of violence against women, both at the High Court and the District Court level, has been launched by none else than Honorable Mrs. Justice B.V. Nagaratna, Judge of the Supreme Court of India, Chairperson, Gender Sensitization and Internal Complaints Committee, Supreme Court of India. Madam, we are indeed thankful to you for having immediately accepted our request to launch this program despite your busy schedule. I thank our Honorable Chief Justice for having spearheaded this initiative and that ensuring that the program had the right fillip by requesting the presence of Honorable Mrs. Justice B.V. Nagaratna for this function. My gratitude to my brother and sister judges who, notwithstanding the fact that it is a weekend, has turned up for the function, which only goes to show the importance that they have bestowed on the subject of this year-long program. I thank the Registrar General Ali and her team of registrars, particularly Mrs. Shubha Anbumani, Registrar District Judiciary, and Ganapati Sami, Registrar IT, and his team, who have worked round the clock to ensure that this program is a success. The presence of the judicial officers of the various districts online and the newly recruited judicial officers is indeed overwhelming. I would be failing in my duty if I did not thank the office bearers of the various occasions and the senior and junior advocates who have turned up for today's functions in large numbers. I wish to express our appreciation to the PWD staff headed by Mr. Kulendian, who have worked tirelessly for making the necessary arrangements for the function. I thank the press and the media present. My thanks to Mrs. Kavita Rameshwar, the Master of Ceremonies, and Jayalakshmi, who has rendered the Tamilthai Varthu. While we leave this venue, I'm reminded about the quote of John F. Kennedy, who had stated, and I quote, "As we express gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live them," unquote. Therefore, let us undertake to ensure that each of us will nurture and protect the smiles of those who are physically weak, who belong to the weaker sex, and who are differently made. Thank you.
With this, we come to the end of the program. Let us all rise for the national anthem.
जनगणमन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उज्जल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे